Ladies and gentlemen, it's season 3, and we failed to mention this last episode. We were so distracted with having special guest Joe and, well, for me, both special guest Joe and normal Joe. What?
Nothing.
What?
Go. Keep going.
What?
Keep going.
Okay. We were so distracted.
You just said like you said special guest Joe, and I was like, hey.
Oh yeah. Oh sorry. You're my special.
host, yeah.
You're my special guest Joe.
No, I'm just.
But you're always here, you know.
I'm just messing with you.
Okay.
I'm just messing with you.
So we got distracted, and we did. I guess this discussion kind of happened afterwards, but
Yeah.
New semester. We're like new semester, new us, new season. So this is season 3. This will be episode 2 of season 3 because the last episode was also obviously this semester. So. Oh my gosh, that was an impressive catch. Did that pick it up? Were you on wide? Oh, we weren't on wide. We didn't catch that.
It was I'd cut to
All right,
cut to you.
Let it be known it was an impressive catch.
But it was a pretty sick
We can
catch, and I think
recreate
it's
it.
stuck under the wheel of the chair.
Okay.
What?
All right, no, we're good. I'll keep talking if you fix that.
What?
No, we're good.
All right.
So it's season 3. We're getting in with it. Last week, obviously, we had the divisional preview. Some great games happening that week, and we'll be sure to get into that. But this week, the NFC and AFC Championships, the week before the Super Bowl, it's going to be a great time.
Yeah.
You ready to talk about it?
Yeah,
Ready to get into
absolutely.
it?
Let's do it.
Let's get right into it. Let's talk
get
about
into
let's talk about the Chiefs first, Joe.
Yeah.
And Joe, I have a question for you on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Kansas City Chiefs, they finally look like, and I don't know if you would agree on this, playoff form Kansas City Chiefs.
They look like
past
the
few
Chiefs
years.
we've seen in the past few years.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and by the way, get the stat out of the way. Patrick Mahomes has had 1 turnover in the past 2 playoff runs, and it was the AFC Championship last season. He dropped like a snap. 1 turnover in 2 full playoff runs, practically. That is amazing. That is insane. That is Patrick Mahomes.
Wow. I mean,
That's
incredible.
That's incredible. But Patrick Mahomes looks like he's back in form. That whole Chiefs offense looks like it's back in form. But my question for you, Joe, is how much of this is the Chiefs versus the opponents they've been going up? Because let me remind you, in the divisional round, wild card round against the Dolphins had basically no edge rushers, right? They were hung dry.
They were so injured. Defense.
No edge rushers. And Vic Fangio. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Vic Fangio. I always want to say Fangio, but Vic Fangio.
Get the first letters like mixed, get like swapped or whatever.
Yeah. One of the best defensive minds in football, as you know, with your Eagles just hiring him as defensive coordinator. He knew this. He said, okay, we're going to have to dial up the blitz because if you let Patrick Mahomes cook you without any pressure, then you're not going to get anywhere.
You're not going to get there.
He's going to, as I said, cook you.
He's going to cook you.
So he dialed up the blitzes. They were forced to blitz, and Patrick Mahomes does what he always does, which is destroy the blitz. But it was basically a lose-lose situation. It's the best he could have given. Right? So they win that week. Move forward to the divisional round. It's the Bills. What happens, Joe? Absolutely no linebackers is what happens. I think we had 3rd-string linebackers playing for the Buffalo Bills. And what happened? Kansas City ran their offense. The Bills, they didn't really try to change anything. They kept their scheme, but Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes basically lit up the second line of that linebacker, of those linebackers for the Bills, cooked them.
Yeah.
Once again, won it. It was somewhat of a close game, but honestly...
It was, in fairness, it was 27-24. It was the final score.
I don't think that final score represented the game. We can talk about this a little bit more, but you remember the McCole Hardman fumble that goes into the end zone for the touchback. I think the Bills really only had 2 stops on Patrick Mahomes that game, if we're being honest.
Not many, definitely.
So not many. So, Joe, how much of this is that the Chiefs are back into form like we've seen in the past? Obviously, this is what, 4th straight? No. How many straight AFC championships? Is it 6?
6 that's frankly a ridiculous number.
Ridiculous. This is Tom Brady Patriots levels of statistics here, of dominance.
Yeah.
How much of this is the Chiefs back in that form in their 6th straight AFC championship versus how much was it the matchups going in against those defenses that were so beat up? What's your takeaway?
Well, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
The Chiefs looked better than they looked, let's say, in the middle of the season? Yes, I think they really have. Their receivers are actually catching the ball a little bit this time. Guys like Marquez Valdez-Scantling, he made I think you will remember he made a couple of very important, catches that proved to be very important in the grand scheme of the game, right?
Yes.
Especially coming down to the wire. And of course, rookie Rashee Rice, who's been their best receiver, I think, practically the whole year, much of the year.
Really stepped into that wide receiver
Really stepped into that wide receiver one role. He's very consistent, very steady. He can hurt you in a lot of different ways, and I'm very, very high on him as a player. However, to your point, the Bills' second unit defensively was completely shredded. Mm-hmm. The Dolphins' defensive line and several defensive starters, like not just the line.
Yeah.
It was just the defensive starters, like period, were just like shredded. There were so many injuries. And now, this doesn't really have anything to do with the game, but now the Dolphins, they lost their defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But in terms of the wild card, the actual game for Miami, their defensive line in particular was shredded for the Bills in the divisional round. Their linebacker, their second unit was shredded, and the Chiefs took full advantage every time in both of those games, as we saw. The Ravens, which we will get more in depth into in just a second, the Ravens are not injured on defense, at least not to the extent that Miami and Buffalo are, whatever. This is going to be...
To mention that Buffalo injuries, I don't know, to put this into perspective, they had A.J. Klein playing. A.J. Klein had not played a snap since the preseason.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that puts that into perspective. They had guys coming in basically off, he is off the practice squad. So
he's literally is, yeah.
Literally straight off the practice squad. So both teams were very beat up. But as we mentioned, Patrick Mahomes is also...
Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes, and that will never change.
Yeah. Yeah.
It will never change as long as he is under center for the Kansas City Chiefs. And from the looks of it, it looks like he's going to be there his whole career.
Look, and when it's the playoff times, Patrick Mahomes just turns up.
You never, if I say it once, I'll say it 600 times or more. You never bet against Patrick Mahomes in the postseason.
Yeah.
Never.
And even this season, he's had one of his worst, which is crazy to say because it was not a bad season for Patrick Mahomes.
It was good. I don't know if I'd say... honestly, I don't know if I would say it was great by his standards. It was certainly good.
Yeah, it was
good. I think great by Patrick Mahomes' standards is miles ahead of great by any other quarterback.
Great
standards.
is MVP, which we've seen multiple times from Patrick
Good
Mahomes.
is like perennial, is like Pro Bowl lock, something like that.
Yeah.
And that was one of those seasons for him, I think.
So you want to talk about the Ravens now? So that's one side of the AFC Championship. Let's talk about the other side, the number 1 seed Baltimore Ravens, who...
I think there's not really a question at this point. They've been the best team in the league for most of the season.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
And they've proven as such, especially over the last few weeks of the regular season. The 56 points dropped on the Dolphins comes to mind.
I'm pulling up the schedule.
The thorough dismantling of the 49ers on Christmas comes to mind.
I think, yeah. I would say since that Week 16 Christmas Eve is a Christmas evening, I would say.
I think it was Christmas Day.
Well, it's Christmas Day, but it was the evening of Christmas, so I'm saying Christmas evening. I understand the confusion there. I understand how we could get confused. But since then, I don't think there has been an argument, because back then it was like, this is the matchup of the Titans. You have the 49ers, the Ravens.
No, I totally agree.
With the Ravens winning that game, I think they've been the clear number 1 team in the NFL. So that was
There's no dispute on that
since December 25th. So, yeah.
That's now a month exactly to the day. That's insane.
To the day.
Today's January 25th. That's insane. Okay, Anyway, you were saying. So the Ravens coming in as the top seed in the AFC, taking on the Chiefs, who have, just been
rolling.
They've been red hot. I feel like ever since the playoffs started, like they were a popular upset pick in the wild card, and they just came. They defended their home turf. They went in Arrowhead, and they just tore that Miami defense apart.
That's what's so insane to me, and we've talked about the matchups, but just how they click. They click as soon as it hits the playoffs. They click because. I don't know. I don't know if we did a prediction. I don't think we had an episode before the wild card round. We didn't, but. A lot of people, as you mentioned, were picking the Dolphins just because of that offense, the high-powered offense.
Yeah.
The Chiefs just turn it on, both offensively, defensively. This is a different team when they're in the playoffs versus when they're in the regular season.
And I know people are going to say, but the weather was weird. Yeah, it was weird. It was freezing.
But didn't stop Patrick Mahomes.
Didn't stop Patrick Mahomes because, for one, they're used to that.
Yeah.
They're used to playing in those conditions because that's how Kansas City is geographically. Mm-hmm. And they are used to playing in those conditions, and that didn't slow them down one bit.
Yeah.
And man, that defense, they just completely shut down that Miami offense. Maybe save for like one play.
Yeah.
That like 50 whatever yard touchdown to
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill from Tua.
Speaking
Other than that, the Chiefs defense just completely shut down that Miami offense.
Yeah, they did. Speaking of defenses, though, as we've talked about defenses with Kansas City playing some banged up defenses, let's talk about the Ravens,
Yeah.
right? Let's talk about that Ravens defense. A very healthy and a very active defense that has been playing phenomenal.
A formidable, opportunistic that's one of my favorite words for this Ravens defense.
Yeah.
Opportunistic. They look to take the ball away from you whenever they can. And I believe I don't think they're first. I think that's Buffalo in takeaways on the season. They are certainly in the top 5, I would guess.
Yeah, I think so.
They're one of the best teams in the league at generating takeaways defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got guys, the list, I can name several off the top of my head. Guys like Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, Geno Stone, Marlon Humphrey, Jadeveon Clowney, who is like basically redeemed himself on a prove-it deal.
Yeah, for real.
He signed it this offseason with Baltimore. When he signed it, I wasn't expecting much out of him, but he has looked fantastic this season. And
don't forget Kyle Hamilton.
Oh,
I
was going to say, he just came to mind right before you said that. Kyle Hamilton.
I would argue the best dude. He has been playing the best. He has been the best player on this Ravens defense down the stretch.
He might be the best safety in the game.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
Like, I thought
he's been phenomenal.
He's been fantastic. And I think I can't think of it. No one else really comes to mind.
There have been a few games watching this year with the Ravens, and every single time I'm watching, Kyle Hamilton is everywhere.
He's everywhere.
He's
everywhere. Making tackles. He's disrupting. He's disrupting the flow of the. I feel like he just disrupts the flow of almost the entire offense.
It almost reminds me of, and I wasn't necessarily old enough to see this guy play, but Troy Polamalu. I don't know why I couldn't
pronounce his
there.
name.
Troy Polamalu. He reminds me almost of Troy Polamalu in just that he's not necessarily the biggest guy. And don't get me wrong, Kyle Hamilton is definitely he's a strong safety,
strong human being.
Yes,
yeah,
but he's not the biggest guy. But he is everywhere, and he makes a difference on almost every single play. And he always seems like he just happens to be in the right place, right time. It's not an accident though. It's not an accident because it happens time and time again.
You know that movie?
Which movie?
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once.
That's him.
That's Kyle Hamilton. That's him. That's Kyle Hamilton. And that's the level at which he's been playing for this Ravens defense this year. He's been phenomenal.
Look at the game against the Texans, right? In that second half in particular, the first half the game was still looking like, I guess, a game. But you get past that second half, CJ Stroud and that Texans offense, which looked so good, just tearing up the Browns.
They were
shut down.
They got shut down. And the game, to your point, the game was tied 10-10 at half. Yes, largely off that punt return for a touchdown from Steven Sims. So, and I thought going into the second half, like, oh, maybe we have a game on our hands.
Yeah.
Wrong. I was wrong. I was very wrong. The Ravens just turned it on in that second half.
229 rushing yards for the Ravens in that game.
That's ridiculous. Who, keep in mind, are missing probably their 2 best running backs.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins and I'm not sure if I may be wrong when I say he's undrafted, but rookie Keaton Mitchell.
Yeah.
Both injured for the year. Bye.
But still, you go up in the divisional game against a defense that has looked good. Obviously, the Texans, the defense wasn't necessarily the headliner for the Texans going into that game.
It wasn't like their biggest strength, but it certainly was not bad whatsoever.
It certainly is much improved from last year with the likes of Will Anderson and such.
And D'Amico Ryan's a defensive mastermind, I'd think, at the helm for them for Houston.
And the Ravens just tore them
apart.
So
it was insane.
So Ravens versus Chiefs. It's going down in Baltimore. Second ever away game in the playoffs for Patrick Mahomes. Won his last one in Buffalo there. Joe, what's the key for either side to win this game?
For the Ravens, this offense has just so many ways to hurt you, so many ways to beat you. and I think that it manifests in the biggest way in Lamar Jackson. I think I'm stating the obvious, but I mean, he can throw it, he can run the ball, and they can. Baltimore and Coach Jim Harbaugh can just scheme their way to win games. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And the defense has just been absolutely phenomenal. Mike McDonald has just done a tremendous job building that unit and making it into the best in the league right now. For the Ravens, I think it's just played their football. Their brand of football has proven that it can get it done against the best teams in the league. I mean, look at the 49ers game.
Yeah.
They dismantled the 49ers.
Yeah.
Made Brock Purdy throw 4 interceptions. I'm not saying Brock Purdy is on the level of Patrick Mahomes. We'll get to more on Purdy and the 49ers in a second. But for Baltimore, play their brand of football, play it well, I think. Avoid the silly mistakes, avoid sloppy turnovers. That is when I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense really starts to get it going. When you mess up that Chiefs offense, that they're going to, no matter like how they're playing or whatever, or however Mahomes is playing,
capitalize. They will
capitalize, period. So if you want to beat Mahomes and the Chiefs, you can't do any of that if you're the Ravens. I think that's a big key. Maybe an underrated key that not a lot of people are talking about.
Yeah.
I think for Kansas City, I'll go on the other hand. I think for Kansas City,
you think there's a chance Kansas City can slow down Lamar and that offense as a whole? I mean, I say the offense as a whole. It's mostly Lamar. No one has.
The Chiefs have not played. Yeah, they played Josh Allen. The Chiefs have not. I don't think the Chiefs have played anyone quite like Lamar.
Yeah.
This season.
He's so dynamic.
And I mean, look at what Josh Allen he played well, I think, against the defense. They were able to slow him. I mean, they were kind of able to slow him down. They weren't able to shut him down. They were probably maybe half able to slow him down. Their defense made. What I'm trying to say is this: their defense made plays when they needed to, and that's one of the main reasons they ended up winning that game. Kansas City.
Yeah.
Stopping Lamar Jackson is a whole different animal. Whole different ball game.
That I would agree with.
Whole different ball game. And I don't even know, because the Chiefs, don't get me wrong, their defense has been exceptional. They haven't played anybody like Lamar. They haven't played anybody like this Ravens team all year. And I'm skeptical that they will be able to slow them down.
Here's my take.
I'm skeptical.
And I'm gonna work off that, because here's my take, and I agree. I'm skeptical that the Chiefs defense is going to have a ton of success slowing down Lamar, and this is what I'm gonna say is the key of the game. I think that Lamar will have a big game. But I think for the Ravens to win, they need to slow down Kansas City. This is making sense, right? This makes sense.
I feel like, again, both of us have been stating the obvious.
Yes, we're stating the obvious.
Yeah.
But here's what I'll say. How many times have we seen Patrick Mahomes in offensive battles, think back to AFC Championships against the Bills, win offensive battles with elite quarterbacks down the stretch? He does it so consistently.
I mean, yeah.
It's very, very difficult to count out Patrick Mahomes.
He's the best in the game at it.
Yes, and in offensive duels, it's so difficult. When you have a game that speeds up and it's offensive based and it's score, almost every time Patrick Mahomes is going to come out on top, and he's shown that time and time again.
Yeah.
So, for the Ravens to win, I think they need to stop that. How does that start? I think it starts with Jadeveon Clowney and that Ravens offense or defensive front. Because here's the deal. If you blitz Patrick Mahomes, he is going to pick you apart, and you will not see the end of it.
You will not have a lot of success.
We saw that against Miami. They blitzed because they kind of had to, and Mahomes tore him up. If you don't get pressure with 4, which is why Miami blitzed, because they knew they weren't going to get pressure with the 4th-string edge rushers they had in there. If you just throw 4 guys at him that aren't going to get pressure, well, here's the deal. Patrick Mahomes is going to tear you up. How do you stop it?
He's going to tear you up either way.
How do you stop it? You need to get pressure with just rushing 4. If you can do that, this Chiefs offense can be slowed down, and I think will be slowed down. Also, Joe Thuney, offensive guard, very good offensive guard.
He is uncertain to play.
Uncertain. I think he's almost been ruled out. I think he is ruled out.
What, like doubtful?
Okay, it is questionable. He didn't practice on Wednesday. I think what I've seen, but what I have been seeing is that he won't be playing.
Trending that direction.
Trending that direction. That bodes well for the Ravens. But this is still a good Chiefs offensive line. Not a great, I would say, but a good Chiefs offensive line. Definitely good. I think if we see the Ravens get pressure and they're able to get quarterback pressures, maybe a few sacks in there without blitzing, and they're able to keep those guys back, they're able to drop 7, or even 8 if they have to just rush 3. If they're getting pressure with 3, then the Ravens are going to win this game.
Yeah.
But if they can drop 7 and play back and defend those guys, make sure you have Kelsey guarded, make sure you have Rashid Rice and some of these wide receivers that have been stepping up guarded, I think the Ravens are going to win this game. But I'm not sure that's going to be able to happen.
I know how difficult it is to guard Travis Kelce. If there's one person I would trust with that assignment, it might be Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah.
Honestly, it might be Kyle Hamilton.
He might be my number 1 pick for that.
Yeah, but I mean, do we want to?
We know predictions.
Yeah,
little predictions here.
I'll give it over to you first.
All right.
After a very, very well stated analysis.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Joe. I mean, you flatter me each and every show. I mean, I don't know how I do this.
He's just him, I guess.
You make me be great, and I make you. That's something bad English.
Okay, what's the prediction?
Okay, prediction.
Say it.
Prediction. I gotta get it over with. All right, man.
It's such a difficult game.
It's a difficult game.
It's almost like a coin flip
and
because
as much
so many elements going in both teams' favors.
Last show, we picked and we got every single game correct except one game. Joe, what game was that? It was the Chiefs.
Chiefs-Bills.
We all picked the Bills, right?
We did.
We were like, that's going to get to Patrick Mahomes being on the road. The Bills are just going to do. They're just
like the offense is going to keep doing that thing where they drop all his passes.
Yeah, we're not going to see it. That was the only game we got wrong. That was the only upset. The higher seed won every single game besides that. Joe, I've learned my lesson. I can't pick against Patrick Mahomes. As much as I am sick of seeing the Chiefs have success, and I love parity in the NFL, and the Ravens are a team that, if the Lions weren't doing what the Lions are doing, which we'll get to in a second, everyone would be cheering for the Ravens. But I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs on this one because I can't count out Patrick Mahomes. I think it is going to be an offensive duel. I don't think the Ravens are going to see that pressure that I was talking about. I think I'm going to say final score, we'll go with 35 to 20. We'll do a 35-31. 35-31. I think it's going to be a close game. Offensive duel, as I said. Both teams put up 30+. But I think Patrick Mahomes down the stretch, it might be one of those late drives, which I am very high on. I think it's going to be a late drive. Kelsey gets a big catch down the stretch. Definitely a touchdown. I think Pacheco has a nice game. I'm going to have the Chiefs winning 35-31.
Wow. Okay.
Joe, on to you. Are you going to be a contrarian here?
I mean, this game makes my brain hurt.
I know.
Just to like,
I know.
Just
I'm
to
feeling
pick
you.
it's.
Keep in mind, we said the Ravens were the best team in the NFL.
We did say that
for a month on the dot.
We did say that for 1 month exactly. I know I said earlier in the show that we never pick against Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And judging by that, I would be absolutely not surprised whatsoever if the Chiefs came out with the victory. Okay? We got that out of the way. All right, cool. However, I simply think the Ravens are the better team, and I have serious doubts that this Chiefs defense is going to be able to slow down Lamar Jackson and this Ravens offense, who, regardless of the fact that they have lost their 2 top running backs to injury, J.K. Dobbins, Keaton Mitchell, to long-term injuries, keeping them out for the season, they haven't missed a beat. They literally have not missed a beat. Gus Edwards and Justice Hill have filled in admirably, more than admirably. I can't think of a word right now, but they've been fantastic in Dobbins and Mitchell's absences. And of course, the main engine behind this Ravens team is Lamar Jackson, and he will likely win his second MVP at the NFL honors in about a week or two, and it's for good reason. And I think it goes from a quote by Patrick Mahomes. He was voted the MVP. I think he said something along the lines. He's the MVP for a reason.
Yeah,
he's the MVP for a reason, and If there is one, I know this Chiefs offense, it feels like they have been turning a corner. They have been turning a corner, I think, and they have they've been heating up. They've been turning it on over the course of the postseason. But if there's one unit I trust against the Kansas City Chiefs offense, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, his supporting cast, it is likely this Ravens defense.
Yeah.
This Ravens defense. I trusted the Eagles defense last year, and look how that turned out. Anyway, that's not the point.
So sad.
That's not the point. I'm so sad. Anyway, that's not the point. The Ravens, they have a dynamic offense led by John Harbaugh. My bad. Sorry, John.
Jim, shout out Jim. Just getting hired.
Jim got hired by the Chargers. Shout out, my man.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the NFL. By John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, their defense helmed by guys like Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Patrick Quinn, defense coordinator Mike McDonald, who is actually a great defensive coordinator and not riding and not coasting on talent like a certain other coordinator I know. Yeah, rhymes with Fonathan Fannin from last season. But okay, enough talking.
Yeah.
I picked the Ravens.
Yeah?
30-27. Baltimore
Okay.
wins.
Okay.
Baltimore wins. They're going to Super Bowl 58 as the AFC representative.
I like having a mix of who we think is going to win because it gives a little competition for us.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So that is the AFC Championship. It'll be on Sunday, 3 p.m. Broadcast, I think, is CBS and Paramount Plus.
CBS Paramount Plus. CBS is the AFC carrier. Fox the NFC carrier.
I think we both knew that.
Expect an absolutely great game. Interestingly, the over-under is 44.5, which both of ours were plus 60. Or I guess yours was just under 60, but still.
Yeah.
We think the over is going to hit on that.
I don't really know how betting works because I'm not a betting person.
we are not betting people here. We do not.
Sorry.
Yeah.
We don't. In my opinion, this is my opinion. I don't think it's a good use of money.
The house always wins.
That's true.
There's a reason there's so much money in the industry, Joe.
That's
House always wins.
The house always wins.
House always wins. All right, let's move to the NFC. Let's
Yeah.
have the Santa Clara.
Santa Clara, California,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
home of the top-seeded San Francisco 49ers, who are taking on...
Let's talk about them first. My.
Quinn Richards
And hey, not just mine. I think I have the right to say this, but America minus California. Minus Santa Clara. America's team, the Detroit Lions.
The Detroit Lions, the number 3 seed in the NFC, taking on the top seed, the 49ers. So, like as you said, let's start with Detroit, right?
Yeah.
We're starting with Detroit. Dispatching both the Rams and the Buccaneers to get here. And it certainly helps that the second-seeded Cowboys took a dump on themselves against the Packers. That was a bit of a crazy description. Are we wrong? They did.
Yeah, they did.
They did. Anyway, the Lions are here in the NFC Championship for the first time since 1991,
In the NFC Championship?
Yeah.
I think
it was 91.
I think it was 91. It would have been the last time the Lions won a playoff game because they had the bye that year. They beat.
And they had Barry Sanders during that time.
Who did they
too,
beat?
right?
They beat the Cowboys in the playoffs, and they played the Redskins in the championship
NFC
game,
championship
and they got
and
crushed.
lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got crushed.
So the Lions are in the NFC Championship for the first time since 1991, and this is an okay. Before we get started on the analysis of the game, this is an unbelievable accomplishment, I think, in and of itself.
Oh, I don't know how you could say it's not. I'm gonna say we've. I've earned the right to say we for the Detroit Lions.
They say not to say we.
They do say not. They do say not to say we've.
We don't look.
We don't condone biases
Here
towards
on
any
Sports Talk on
teams.
Elm Street, we don't condone biases. We attempt our very best to remain unbiased.
That is unless your team.
Are we perfect? No.
That
But-
is unless your team has not won a playoff game in your lifetime, and then you have the right.
Well,
to
they
say
have
it.
now. They've won two of them.
And that's what I was just gonna say. You said, what did you say? This is a great achievement or something. This is
It's a
incredible
fantastic achievement.
Yes, because
You
the Lions.
said, you know what you said to me before the playoffs
What did I
started?
say?
You said that it would be a disappointment if the Lions didn't win a playoff game.
I did say that, and I
You
stand
said
by
that.
that. I stand by that because although the hype is great, I think a lot of people, almost every analyst, predicted the Lions to make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people said we were going to make the NFC Championship, though. And look,
No.
the Lions have doubled the playoff wins this year that they have in franchise history, at least in the Super Bowl era. I'm not counting the championship series era, whatever you want to call it, before the Super Bowl. So,
Which we're kind of the Super Bowl era here.
yeah,
right?
Super Bowl era. Doubled playoff wins in 1 year, 1 season. Doubled playoff wins in the franchise, right? That's incredible. That is insane. Joe, I don't even know what much to say about this team. Like the accomplishment, I'm almost speechless. As you can tell, I am speechless. I almost am
I
at
see
a
you
loss of
struggling to
words.
form the appropriate words.
I don't know how to explain just how much this means to not only the city of Detroit, but just each and every person who has been in the Lions organization. This is
And
just
people who have grown up, people such as yourself,
Yeah.
who have grown up watching this team be consistently bad.
yeah.
And you had to endure the 0-16 season
I
in
mean, just-
2008.
I was just a wee child watching the Lions lose every single game. It was almost like, to put this in perspective, it's like growing up, it's almost like you put on the Lions every Sunday and you're just like, oh, well, we'll lose again. Watch that. That'll be funny. And whatever way the refs will mess us up this game is what Lions fans will always say. But to be here, NFC Championship, playing for the Super Bowl, it's the first time that's been said since 1991. And I think the Lions have a chance. Let's get into it. So,
Yeah, let's
Lions taking down the Rams, taking down the Buccaneers, both with good games. This is what I will say, and this is my main concern heading into this. I think if the Lions want to take down the 49ers, they'll need 2 good halves of offensive football.
I totally agree.
And I will get your take on this, but I think in the last 2 games, in both the wild card round and the divisional round, the Lions did not play 2 halves of good offensive football.
No.
You look at the Buccaneers game. That first half, not great. They put up 10 points. They had a few drives, but a lot of them stalled. Second half, fantastic for the Lions. They scored 21 points in the second half. Basically the same thing against the Rams. I think it was 21 points in the first half and then just 3 in the second half.
Yeah.
That is a theme that has been consistent in the Lions season thus far, dating back to games, I think of the Saints game where the Lions got a huge lead and then slowly let the Saints come back and pull it out at the end. But
Yeah.
the Lions have a hard time at keeping that hot play, whether it's starting the game hot or coming out of halftime after playing hot and then just basically cooling down. The Lions need to play 2 fantastic halves of football and offense, which they're capable of doing. They've played 2 good halves so far out of the 4, but they need to play those in
They need to in succession.
In succession. That's the one.
They need to play two halves of good offensive football
And
in
I-
a consistent manner in succession in order to have a chance to take down San Francisco.
And I think that's the key. Joe, what are your thoughts?
I agree with that. That's a good analysis. I think that the Lions need to show consistency. Are they capable of doing it? Yes, I think so. It's going to be a difficult task against this San Francisco defense. Okay, however, admittedly, I will admit, while they have been good, they have been a little banged up. And they don't... Okay, let me put it like this. They don't scare me the way the Ravens defense does. I know
Yeah.
we're different conferences. I'm not saying the 49ers defense is bad. In fact, they're quite good.
Especially picking up guys like Chase Young throughout the
Chase
season.
Young, yeah. How in the world was that allowed to happen?
You have Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Ohio State guys on the sides. You got Fred Warner back there. This is still
Drake
a very...
Greenlaw, who is one of the most physical players, period, in the game right now.
This is still a great defense.
It's still a fantastic defense.
Let it be known.
And it is capable of making life difficult for this high-powered Lions offense. I think that the key is going to be the Lions. The 49ers probably, most likely, know that that the Lions like to attack the middle of the field with that play-action game.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the man. I think the man with the most amount of pressure in this game out of everyone is. Okay, let me back up. Maybe not out of everybody. Everyone involved with the Detroit Lions, the man with the most pressure on his shoulders out of everyone involved with the Detroit Lions in this game is Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions, for those who don't know, Ben Johnson is going to have to call the game of his life, I think. I think he's more than capable of doing it because he's been fantastic.
Arguably the best offensive coordinator this year.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Arguably the best offensive coordinator in the league. And he is well on his way to getting a head coaching job somewhere.
Yeah, wherever that will be.
Whoever that will be. I've seen rumors that that he and the Commanders are close or something.
I think the Commanders seem to be the front runners for sure.
The Commanders, and I think he would do a fantastic job as a head coach. But his focus should lie, and it will lie, on this game. And if Detroit wants to have a chance to advance to the Super Bowl, I still can't even believe those words just came out of my mouth. I mean,
I can't either. And I'm a fan of the team, so
and they're your team. So, but if they want a chance to advance to Las Vegas, they need to. I think they need to make. They need to have. They need to have the 49ers, that, especially that second unit, and this is really difficult to do because of how good that second unit is. They need to have that second unit scrambling, and they need to have they need to, I think the biggest key, you need to confuse this 49ers defense. Not necessarily like out physical play them, although that's important. I'm not saying that's not, because it is. You need to get this 49ers defense confused. Like, they don't know who's doing what route the out guys are running. What about the in guys? Are they going? Are they going across the middle field? Are they cutting towards the sidelines? What are they doing? What kind of motions are you using? How much motion are you using?
And good thing for the Lions is, of any team that needs to do such a thing like confuse another team, having this many weapons is the key to that, right?
It is absolutely the key.
And there are so many weapons on this Lions team.
So
You're talking
many
about
weapons.
the dual powerhouse combo of Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery.
I think Gibbs in particular is going to be another massive X factor, because we already know that Montgomery is I think he's like the big kind of, I don't want to say bell cow back, because
the workhorse.
Like, the workhorse. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Thank you. The workhorse, the guy who can get the physical yards, as I call them, the physical yards. Jahmyr Gibbs is more like the explosive, quick, smaller guy. I compare it. Okay, I know. I don't want to make everything about the Eagles.
Yeah.
I compare it last year a little bit. It's not, because I don't know if I compare it kind of last year to the 1-2 punch that the Eagles had of Miles Sanders and Kenneth Gainwell.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Sanders and Montgomery are the same player.
Gibbs reminds me of, I don't know if you know Dree Archer, but he reminds me of Pittsburgh Steelers legend Dree Archer. Not a long career in the NFL, but
I don't think I'm familiar with that
Just
name.
a speedy guy who, and look, Jahmyr Gibbs against the Buccaneers, 9 carries for 74 yards. That's a average of 8.2 per carry.
That's
and,
great.
And out of the backfield, 4 receptions for 40 yards.
And Gibbs is going to be a massive factor in the passing game.
Yes.
If they find that they can't get it to guys like St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Josh
Laporta.
Reynolds, Sam Laporta, then Gibbs is going to take on a pretty substantial load of the pass catching duties.
Yeah.
Let's
Lions
go with
picking up Zach Ertz right before the championship.
that.
The championship
is,
game.
Interesting, honestly.
It is an interesting move. I don't know how much.
I don't know how much he has
I don't
left.
know. I don't know how much we'll see of Ertz. I think it's the replacement. I think Brock Wright got banged up in the last game, so I think it is the replacement for
it
Wright.
makes sense. How long has it been since Zach Ertz has played?
He was on the Cardinals this year, correct? He was on the Cardinals.
I thought they let him go.
He either got hurt and then he got cut, or
They just cut him?
Got cut because I'm not going to get the name. Cardinals tight end who's been stepping up this year. I completely forget. Trey McBride. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ertz signing probably won't have that much of an impact, but it is just noteworthy.
It is something to note.
Let's talk about. So we talked about the Lions' strength. Let's talk about the Lions' weakness, the defensive side. So,
Yike!
Look,
It's
the defense
pretty inconsistent.
It's inconsistent, and as much as the defense has looked not great this year, so that's the second overall defense in terms of yards per game, rushing wise, right? And
That's good.
that suits well for this Lions team going into the 49ers, whose best weapon, I don't think anyone would disagree, is Christian McCaffrey.
I would not disagree at all.
So,
I agree.
How do you think this defense will fare against the 49ers? What do you think they need to do on the defensive end?
Man, this is so intriguing.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like what I said in comparison to like the Chiefs and the Ravens, the Chiefs defense playing against the Ravens offense. I don't think the Lions have had to match up against a running back. I say running back. He's like an offensive weapon. A weapon like Christian McCaffrey, a player like Christian McCaffrey before this year.
Obviously not a running back, but Lamar Jackson is another very good runner who we've seen. Obviously, Lamar can throw the ball around too, but when the Lions did play Lamar, 38-3. So
Yeah.
was it 33? I think it was.
It was. I thought it was 38-6.
It might have been. Yeah, it might have been 38-6.
38-6.
Yeah.
And and Lamar had an outstanding game, as we've come to expect.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think that it is absolutely crucial. The Lions defense, I feel like I'm stating the obvious here. The Lions defense needs to have probably the best game they've played all season.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'm not sold that I'm not completely sold on the fact that they're going to slow down McCaffrey. I think he's going to have somewhere between a relatively big to a big game. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
However, something about this Lions defense I want to note is I think their pass defense, while it's been not great, it's getting. I'd call me crazy. I think it could have an impact against Brock Purdy.
They've been opportunistic, and I know you like that word, as you mentioned.
I
but
do like that word.
You'll watch, and it's like, okay, the Lions just gave up another against the Rams, 60-yard touchdown to Puka Nacua. But when it comes down to it, there are multiple times in the game, in the last few games, where the Lions have needed to stop on third down, fourth down, and the pass coverage has been good. And a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson has stepped up.
They're getting C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Keep in mind, the dude led the NFL in interceptions last season for the Philadelphia Eagles. I watched a lot of him. I wish he would have re-signed, but I'm glad he's doing well in Detroit. Mm-hmm. And since he's been back from that injury that cost him like over half the season.
He was gone for a while, yeah. He came back for the first time week 18 against the Vikings.
He has looked better and better every game. I think he's rounding into that form that helped him lead the NFL in interceptions.
I think he had an interception against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, he did have the
on the opening drive, I believe.
I think so. I think it was the opening drive. Yeah. But I think that he is rounding into that form that made him one of the best safeties in the game, particularly last year with Philly, and I think he's going to be a big X factor. I can see him hunting. I say hunting Brock Purdy. What I mean by that is like hunting his eyes. I think they will like know where he likes to go with the ball.
Yeah.
And I can see him and that Lions secondary just kind of like flying, kind of like just being opportunistic. Mm-hmm. I said it again. Flying.
Getting a turnover, maybe.
Getting a turnover. Yeah. Just flying everywhere. Getting everywhere. Not letting any blade of grass go uncovered, untouched.
And that has happened to the 49ers before, that Christmas Day game. That's a similar thing that happened.
What happened there?
Purdy threw, 4 interceptions?
4 interceptions.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about that side of the ball. Let's talk about the 49ers.
The 49ers. There is only one thing I'm asking myself about the San Francisco 49ers, particularly on offense. The defense we've been over, it's great. Mm-hmm. They're getting healthier, semi-healthier at the very least. Yeah. And it's going to be a formidable test for this Lions offense, this high-powered Lions offense. That's a big matchup I'm looking forward to. But we kind of already, we said a little bit about that, right? There is one thing on my mind if I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan, player, coaching member, whatever, anyone involved with the organization. Is Deebo Samuel playing?
Is Deebo Samuel going to play?
Is Deebo playing? If he's not, then that we had a little taste of what that was like.
Yeah, we were talking about this before the show. So
when Deebo Samuel was hurt.
Yeah.
What was the 49ers' record when he was hurt?
I don't think they had lost a game. Oh, well, not when he was hurt. I meant going into before he got hurt.
They were 5-1. They lost to the Browns on that Jake Moody miss. It was this. How do I remember this? It was the same way the Eagles lost to the Jets.
Yeah. So Deebo gets hurt. What happens? You got it.
What happens to the 49ers? Well, they don't do so well. They go from 5-0 to 5-3 over a span of the next 3 weeks, losing to the Bengals, losing to the Browns. That was 5-1.
Yeah.
Losing to the Vikings.
Deebo was hurt for that. He got hurt in that Browns game, I believe.
In the Browns, yeah.
So they lose the game.
They lose the Browns
5-0 going into with Deebo getting hurt. Deebo gets hurt 0-3.
The moment Deebo gets hurt, the wheels start falling off a little bit. They lose to the Browns on that last second miss, field goal miss. They lose to the Vikings on primetime. Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. That was a
Primetime
messy
Kirk,
game.
who torched their secondary for 3 touchdowns, over I think over 300 yards passing, and then they lose
378.
370. Man, I mean that's close to 400.
That's primetime Kirk.
That's primetime Kirk. And then they're back in San Francisco against the Bengals, and then they get pretty handily defeated by a healthy Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
And that Bengals offense, I think it was 31-17.
31-17, and Purdy had 2 interceptions and a fumble that game.
Not good. Not good.
Yeah.
You can see just how much Deebo Samuel means to this team and this offense. He is, I think, yes, I know Brock Purdy's behind center, but I'm just going to say it. I think he's like the engine because he does so much.
Yeah.
He's in the backfield. He's outside. Sometimes they put him in the slot and they bring Brandon Ayuk to the outside. He does so much for this offense, and he is, I think, one of if not the main catalyst for them.
Yeah, and look, there were other factors going into that 0-3. Obviously, it's not just Debo. I know the Browns game was in rain, but look, if I'm a 49ers fan...
And in the Vikings game, Christian McCaffrey struggled.
Yeah.
Pretty big
McCaffrey
time.
struggled. I think McCaffrey might have gotten banged up with an ankle or something.
Something like that.
Something
I don't even know if he played in the Bengals game as well.
I think Trent Williams missed a game or two there. So, yes, there were confounding factors, but look, the point still stands. They were phenomenal with Debo. They were not without.
They were subpar. They were average without
If
him.
I'm a 49ers fan, I don't want to find out if that was the actual cause. I just don't want to find out. If I'm a 49ers fan, I'm like, Debo needs to be playing, right?
Yeah.
Because look, I mean, the statistics.
If he is not playing, that could be very, very, very bad news for the 49ers.
Yeah. I mean, it's causation versus correlation. Whether they're correlated or not, we don't know yet. But obviously, it's without being said whether that is the reason or not. The 49ers are better when Debo is on the field.
Yes.
And so I think that's going to be a big key. I think that the 49ers will need him because I don't believe that McCaffrey is going to lead the way, at least on the ground. I think the 49ers are smart, right? They're a well-coached team. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach.
He's a fantastic coach.
Look, the Lions are second in the NFL in run defense for a reason. They load the box, right? I think the Lions' 3 leading tacklers are all linebackers, starting with Anzalone. They load the box with linebackers and the 4 up front. They stop the run. That's their key. That's their focus. The 49ers know that. They're going to go for the passing game, right? And they've had a good passing game. They have weapons.
They're going to trust Brock Purdy to lead them with his arm.
Brock Purdy lead them in the arm. I would even argue they're trusting their other weapons that are not McCaffrey, with Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, the possibility of Deebo Samuel, and just this Avengers team, as I mentioned last episode.
I even feel like guys who may not even get super consistent playing time will need to step up. Guys like Juwan Jennings comes to mind, Ray McLeod. Some of those guys are going to need to step up big time, I think. If in the event that I say in the event. I think they need to step up, period.
Yeah.
Because isn't Juwan Jennings like a third receiver? He's going to get his catches.
And look, I could be wrong here, but this is going into this game, this is what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that this Lions defense and McCaffrey, they're both very good at, obviously, McCaffrey running the ball, Lions stopping the run. I think they're going to even out. I don't think McCaffrey's going to have a horrible game. I don't think he's going to have a great game.
He's going to be solid. In the middle. Yeah.
I think he's going to have a game.
I agree. I think he's going to be good.
Which means it's going to be decided by the passing game, right? And this Lions passing defense. So going in as a Lions fan, you're concerned, obviously, on the passing defense. As a 49ers fan, you're like, oh, this is going to be great for us. But a lot of it will lie in the play of Purdy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that if the Lions, they load the box, they stop the run, and when the Lions, I think if the Lions can because knowing Dan Campbell,
yeah,
I think they're gonna blitz Purdy. That's what I think. I think they're gonna blitz him more than we think they are.
I'm gonna take over on that just for a second here because
go ahead.
I think that's another key, as I mentioned in the AFC Championship, that getting pressure on Mahomes. I think getting pressure on Purdy is something we need to see because Purdy, he's very good at evading rushers, right? Throughout this year, the Lions have gotten a lot of pressures from Aiden Hutchinson in particular, but no one else. Look, and if Aiden gets pressure, I've seen this multiple times as Lions fans, it's very frustrating because Aiden will get pressure and the opposing quarterback, whoever it is, will just escape the pocket. This happened against
no one else.
There's no one else in the area, right?
Yeah.
And this happened against the Packers, and Jordan Love was very good at evading Aiden and getting away and making a play because there was only one guy on him. And look, the Packers won on Thanksgiving. I think Purdy is a very similar player, not necessarily completely, but in terms of evading the rush to Jordan Love
I
and
think
getting out of the
Love
pocket,
is like, from what I've seen, I think Jordan Love may be a little bit better at that.
I would say so, but Purdy's
not bad.
Purdy's not bad at it.
He's
It's actually,
good at it.
I would say it's one of his strong suits.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
I think a key for the Lions is having someone else step up. And I think James Houston is still questionable. He would be a fantastic guy to fill in that role because look, James Houston, even if he's not getting sacks, he is a kind of a smaller bodied pass rusher who is fast. He is fast. So if Purdy's getting out and the offensive line breaks down, Hutchinson's on him, Houston can be on that other side to stop Purdy from extending the play and making a throw downfield to one of his receivers, which will undoubtedly be getting open with Brandon Ayuk and possibly Debo and Kittle because look, I think they're just on one-on-one matchups, I'm taking the 49ers offensive players over the Lions secondary any day of the week.
Me too.
Even the Lions linebackers are not great in pass coverage. Anzalone, I'm never wanting in pass coverage. Jack Campbell, he's been solid his rookie year, but in pass coverage, he's been basically a negative.
Yeah.
Barnes has been slow, though he ended the game last week.
He ended the game. He made the biggest play of the game.
Yeah.
Last week.
So
props to him.
I think a big key for this Lions team is going to be getting that pressure and not just Aiden. Because look, how good does it do you if Aiden gets pressure, Purdy extends the play and throws the pass to a wide open receiver? It does you no good. So getting that pressure and making sure you have a good QB contain and that he's not able to escape, I think is the key for the Lions on defense.
Mm-hmm. They're going to need to implement, as you said, a good QB contain to ensure that Purdy doesn't escape.
It's an underrated aspect of his game, I think, is Purdy's legs.
Yeah. And he doesn't even scramble outside of the pocket that much. He doesn't scramble outside, he just kind of extends it. And on top of what I was saying, like when he does, it's underrated, like you said, and it's like you kind of wonder, why doesn't he do it more often? Because it seems like he's good at it.
And if the Lions are not getting pressure with, this is my concern as a Lions fan. If the Lions are not getting pressure with Hutchinson, they're forced to blitz, right? Because I think Purdy is going to have time if Hutchinson's obviously not getting pressure, and that will be a negative for the Lions. If the Lions are not getting pressure, they're going to be forced to blitz, something the Lions are not too fond of. They don't blitz a lot. They have a fairly low ratio in terms of blitzes.
Yeah.
And if they're forced to blitz, that leaves your secondary out to dry in one-on-one coverage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's going to be key for this Detroit defense, that they are going to need to they're going to need to contain the quarterback, contain Purdy's escapability. That's a word,
It's a word.
right?
I think it's a word. We can make it one.
I'm pretty sure it's a word. I think I've seen it. It's definitely, I think it's a word. But they're going to have to tone down his maneuverability in the pocket, even outside the pocket, getting away from the rush. It's something he's good at, something he's been underrated at throughout the course of the season, and that's going to be key for Detroit, as well as the coverage downfield, making sure there are no busts in coverage.
Yeah.
Do I have a lot of faith in Detroit to do that? Judging from past experience,
I saw.
I'm not completely sold, as I said.
I saw a little I don't know, meme, I guess if you want to call it, on Instagram, and it was that Dan Campbell, the next time Mike Evans is wide open running down the side, it's just a coach tackling a player. I was like, yeah.
Dan Campbell's just like, fine.
Yeah, fine.
I'll do it. I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, wait. I messed up.
Take some time.
Would we really be surprised if something like that happened in the game?
No one would be surprised.
No one would be surprised.
I love Dan Campbell. I think everyone loves Dan Campbell. Even if you're a 49ers fan, you can't not love Dan Campbell. The guy's awesum.
The guy's amazing. He's the perfect coach for this team.
I saw a clip from the Dan Le Batard show, and it was they're interviewing Calvin Johnson. They're like, because Calvin played with Dan Campbell on those Lions teams. And he was like, if we would tell you, Calvin, that Dan Campbell would be the guy who leads Detroit to 2 playoff wins and an NFC championship, would you believe it? And Calvin was just like, no, no way I would believe you. He's like, that guy. He was like, you're like, yeah, you would assume he would just be linebacker coach, and that was the highest you would ever get to. But
I mean,
nope. Here we are in the NFL with Dan Campbell, a literal Madden coach, going for it on 4th and 7 or whatever, just do
he's
it.
Like
Run the
if
fake
a Madden player, and it's just because I play a lot of Madden, and you
wouldn't do the calls Dan Campbell does.
You've seen me play. I think you know the kind of player I am. I would never do some of that stuff.
I would love to see a fake punt in this NFC Championship game.
A fake punt.
Another one.
It's on the list. Fingers crossed.
Lions, I think, go for it on fourth down. It was a crazy percentage. It's like 40-something% of the time on fourth down. And that's like all fourth downs. It's insane.
No matter the distance. Okay. Well, I say no matter. Campbell's not dumb enough to go for it on fourth and 9.
Because look, he takes a lot of risks, but they work out a large percentage of the time they're working out. We have had a lot of issues.
They
with
work out.
Today.
Admittedly, he's good at it.
Yeah.
Whenever he goes for it on fourth down, they work out a lot, like you said.
Anything else you want to say about the 49ers? You're good to get into predictions.
I mean,
I'm good for predictions.
I think I'm good.
I think
We'll take the last 5 minutes or so to give our predictions on who takes the NFC Championship and moves on to represent the NFC in Super Bowl 58.
I will let you go first because I got something to say.
Oh, okay. All right, I am. All right. Okay, so this comes down to one critical question, which I alluded to in my 49ers bit. Is Deebo Samuel playing? If Deebo Samuel is playing, I think the 49ers win the game.
Yeah.
If he is not playing, I think the Lions win. And this is what makes it difficult, right? All right, so I'm going to say, pushing all that aside, just the question of who is going to win the game. I think it's going to be close. I think it's maybe closer than a lot of people think. I think the 49ers win. I think the 49ers are going to win a close game. The 49ers are going to win a close game because they're at home. That's going to be a big factor. And Detroit they've played at home all postseason. And now they're having to go out to Santa Clara playing this 49ers team in front of an absolutely insane, raucous crowd at Levi Stadium. I think the 49ers win it. I'm going to say they win it 30-24.
Yeah.
30-24 San Francisco. All right. Go ahead. Say your piece.
Here's my piece. 3 years ago, the Detroit Lions made a hire. They hired from the staff of the Saints. I believe he was the linebacker coach at the time. A guy by the name of Dan Campbell.
Daniel Campbell.
People questioned.
No, we'll call him that.
Based off of the Lions' history of hiring head coaches, Matt Patricia.
The Eagles know him.
People questioned.
Know him.
They said, it's a reach. What is Detroit doing? Classic Detroit move. What are you doing? They doubted. Fast forward 11 games. The Lions are 0-11 and no, not 11 games. It was 11 games. 0-11-1. The Lions are 0-11-1.
They ended that season, I think, 13-1.
It was 0-11-1. They are playing the Minnesota Vikings at home. The Lions have been the laughingstock. Ha, you got a coach. It doesn't really matter. The Lions are the laughingstock of the league still.
The Lions will be the Lions.
They're like the Lions will be the Lions. Same old Lions. They're not going to win a game. I was in attendance at that game.
Yes,
me and some friends of mine.
I remember this story.
This goes down. The Lions are trailing basically the entire game, but Goff comes through. Fourth quarter, he comes through. He leads a touchdown drive. The Vikings take the lead. There's like 30 seconds left. It's like, oh, well, that's same old Lions. Giving up the lead again late. Get the lead late, give it up late. Lions drive down the field.
There were 30 seconds left,
Lions drive down the field. 3 seconds left on the clock. They run a play. The last play, they need a touchdown to win. Goff to Amon-Ra. First win in the Dan Campbell era. I was in attendance. Loudest I've ever heard Ford Field.
Wow.
That was the start. That was the beginning. But the team knew that. The team knew that was the beginning because Dan Campbell was building something. But everyone still criticized. The next year, you start the year, the Lions are what, 1-6? Something along those lines. This is not the right hire. This is the same old Lions. Nothing has changed.
I think there were rumblings at the time. That had some steam to them.
They're like, Campbell's going to be gone at the end of the year. Campbell's on the hot seat because of this. How did the Lions finish that year? 8-2. 9-8.
9-8.
Positive
overall.
season. Keep the Packers out of the playoffs when the Packers had a must-win game at Lambeau Field and the Lions win. Now we're like, okay, wait a minute.
Lions win and knock the Packers out of the postseason.
And now they're like, okay, wait a minute.
And eventually, what happens to the Packers after that season? Aaron Rodgers gets traded to the Jets.
That was Aaron Rodgers' last game, and the Lions beat him at Lambeau. As a Packer. Now you have this year, right? Going in, people thought the Lions were going to be a good team. They were like, okay, this team could win the division. They're going to win the division, but Lions are going to make it. They're not going to win a playoff game.
They're going to lose the wild card.
They're going to lose the wild card. What happened, Joe? They didn't lose in the wild card, Joe.
No.
It was a tight win.
They won, right? They won? Yeah, they won.
It was tight, but they won.
Then they went to the divisional round. What happened? Baker's going to end them. What happened?
No,
No,
they
no, no.
won.
They won.
They won.
They won, right?
Derek Barnes making the play to continue the season, continue the ride, and
Joe,
now here we are.
Joe, this is not just a one-year team. This team is not, this has been 1 year. This is 3 years in the making. 3 years in the making, ever since Dan Campbell stepped in the door and said, we're going to be gnawing kneecaps on the way up. We're going to get knocked down, but we're going to gnaw your kneecaps on the way up.
We're going to be biting kneecaps off.
We're going to get knocked down. We're going to bite another kneecap off. This is 3 years in the making. Those guys, Goff, Amon-Ra, Hutch coming in 2 years ago with the draft after that 3-11-1 season. 3-12-1? 3-12-1.
3-13-1.
3-13-1. 3-13-1 sounds right.
3-13-1 because they added that was the year they added 18 week 18.
After that season, this team has been together and they have been building something. And people didn't realize it. People outside of Detroit, people in the media, they didn't realize it until the Lions started this run. Until they started taking one down at a time, until they made it to the NFC Championship. This team knew they were going to be here. They knew. I know it's crazy to say that, but they knew based on what they were building in that locker room, based off of what they had built since Dan Campbell walked in that door, the people they had drafted, the players they had picked up, the growth of this team. Look, Amon-Ra was undrafted, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe he was like 6th round.
I think
he was not a high
fifth
pick.
or sixth round.
Fifth or sixth round.
Not a high pick is the point.
Look, this team has been building this. They are here. This team they have come too far to back down now, okay? This Lions team, I don't care about the passing defense. I don't care about all the stuff people have said about the Lions. This team is going to win in Santa Clara on Sunday at 6:30 p.m.
Wow.
This team is going to win the game.
Wow.
This team is going to the Super Bowl, okay?
Wow.
I know that's crazy to say, but the Lions are going to the Super Bowl. They have come too far. Dan Campbell is not going to let this team go. Look, I had a little bit of doubt going in. I thought to myself, and this thought came across my mind after the Lions beat the Bucs. I said, the Lions are going to go into Santa Clara and they're going to get the wind knocked out of their sails. You know, they don't have all of Detroit backing them. That stadium is not that home field advantage. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter at all. The Lions have built it. This is not just the fan base. This is not just home field. This is in that organization. Each and every single player, they know what they're going to do on Sunday. And what are they going to do, Joe? They're going to win that game.
I mean, they've come this far.
They've come this far.
Why would now be the time to
People didn't think
back
this.
down?
People thought, the Lions are going to be good. And look, I think the Lions are going to be good in the future as well. But I think this is the year. Not next year, not 2 years, not 3 years. The rebuild, this is now. This happens now. And the Lions are in the NFC Championship. Go out there and win it. Go out there and win it. And I think that's what Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, all of these guys. Let's not forget, people doubted the draft, and the Lions have had one of the best drafts last season with Brian Branch and Jack Campbell and Jahmyr Gibbs.
And Sam Laporta. Don't forget him.
The Lions are going to win this thing, Joe, and I think it's going to be an offensive game. I'll give you that. I think it's going to be an offensive game. I think the Lions need to put up 30+, and I think they will. I think Ben Johnson.
Capable of putting up 30+.
They're capable of putting up 30+. They did it against the Bucs. I think the Lions are going to put up 30+. I'm going to say the Lions take this thing home. I think it's going to be a close game, not super close. I'm going to say the Lions are going to score 31. I'm going to say 31-24. Lions take it home.
Wow. Well, I think that is an excellent way to end this episode off of Quinn's
impassioned
declaration for the Detroit Lions heading into the NFC Championship game.
Waited long enough.
I mean,
waited long enough.
I think all of America is behind you for that.
All of America minus, I said California earlier.
Minus Santa Clara.
Just probably the Bay Area. I don't think any other California teams are rooting for the 49ers.
Yeah. Well, that is going to do it for this episode.
It's episode 2.
Episode 2 of season 3. We're in season 3 already, which is insane.
Next episode will be Super Bowl preview.
Yes.
Excited for that.
Man, it's gonna be so hype. It's gonna be so high. But for now, until then, this episode right here will be up on Spotify and YouTube soon. And so keep an eye out for that. But until then,
that's all we got.
That's all we got.
That's all we got
for this one. And we will see. Thank you all for listening, for watching. However it is you consume our media.
Yeah.
And we will come back at you again soon for a Super Bowl preview.